All right, let's talk about something that sounds, frankly, a little crazy. It's a simple eye drop for dry eyes. In Europe, you can pick it up for about 20 bucks. But here in the United States, that exact same drug, it'll set you back over $800. Yeah, you heard that right. So how in the world is that even possible? We're going to get into it.
So let's dive right in. The whole mystery really boils down to this. One single drug, but it's sold under two totally different names with, you guessed it, two wildly different price tags.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It's absolutely staggering. Here in the US, the drug is called Mebo. You've got to get a doctor's prescription for it, and a single month's supply, it's going to cost you upwards of 800 bucks before your insurance even kicks in. Now, over in Europe, it goes by the name Evoteers, and you can just walk into a pharmacy and grab it off the shelf, over the counter, for about 20 bucks. And that really is the $1,000,000 question, or in this case, the $800 question, right? We're not talking about a different formula or some new advanced version. It's the same active ingredient. So how on earth do you end up with a 40 times price difference? Let's figure it out.
Okay, so as you've probably already guessed, a price gap this huge doesn't just happen by accident. Nope. This was the result of a very deliberate and, as it turns out, a very, very profitable business decision.
If you trace it back, the story really starts over in Europe, way back in 2015. That's when this drug first came out as an over-the-counter product. Fast forward to 2019, and the pharmaceutical company Bausch Lomb buys the rights to sell it in the US and Canada. Now, they could have just brought it over as a cheap over-the-counter option, right? But they didn't. They took a completely different path, and in 2024, they launched it as the prescription drug Mebo. And you know what? From a purely business perspective, this high-price strategy, it was a home run, a massive success. In just its first year, the company was hoping for sales around $95 million. But they didn't just meet that goal, they completely blew past it, hitting $172 million in actual sales. Wow. And it's not slowing down. The forecast for the future is even bigger. We're talking over $500 million in annual sales. Now, to really put that number into perspective, think about this. If they sold that exact same amount of product at European prices, those sales would be less than $20 million. I mean, the financial incentive to go the expensive prescription-only route is just enormous.
So how is this even legal? How do you take a common over-the-counter drug and turn it into a premium prescription product in another country? Well, it all comes down to how you navigate the regulatory system and what a lot of people are calling a loophole.
Okay, first, let's just quickly get on the same page about what over-the-counter, or OTC, even means. Super simple. An OTC drug is just any medicine that regulators agree is safe enough for you to use on your own without a doctor having to look over your shoulder. Now, naturally, people ask the company, hey, why is Mebo a prescription drug here? And Bausch Lomb's official statement says that it required a, quote, rigorous FDA process, a full new drug application with extensive clinical trials that took years and significant investment. So they're saying it was a long, expensive process. Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the key counterargument. Critics point out that the real test for getting OTC status isn't about how complicated the drug is or how much it costs to develop. At the end of the day, it boils down to one single crucial question. Is it safe? Can someone use it correctly and safely without a doctor's direct supervision? And that's where this drug's history in Europe becomes so important. I mean, come on, it's been sold safely over the counter there for almost a decade. That decade-long safety record, that's pretty much Exhibit A that it meets the safety standard for being an OTC drug. So the decision to push it through the whole prescription process here, well, it really starts to look less like a regulatory necessity and a lot more like a strategic business choice. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's rough for people with dry eyes, but what does this have to do with me? Well, the reality is, when a single drug is priced this high, it creates a ripple effect. And those costs, they eventually wash over the entire healthcare system. So how exactly does an expensive eye drop end up affecting your wallet? Well, it's a chain reaction. First, the patient might get a coupon from the drug maker, so their out-of-pocket copay is pretty low, maybe even zero. But, and this is a big but, the insurance company still has to pay the pharmacy the rest of that huge price tag. We're talking over $750. So to make up for these massive payouts, what does the insurer do? They raise the monthly premiums for everyone on their plans. And that's how we all end up paying more for healthcare, basically subsidizing these super expensive drugs. All right, so we've laid out the problem pretty clearly. The next logical question is, can we actually do anything to stop this from happening again? And the answer is, yeah, there's a pretty clear solution being proposed.
And you know what? The core idea isn't all that complicated. We're not talking about some massive overhaul of the whole system. We're talking about a direct, simple policy change to close the very loophole that lets this happen. So, what would that policy fix actually look like? Well, a few key things. First, you could require the FDA to automatically review a drug for over-the-counter status if it's already being sold that way in other developed countries. Makes sense, right? Second, you could have them go back and do retroactive reviews for drugs like Mebo that are already out there. The whole point is to just take away the financial incentive for companies to play this game, to take a perfectly safe, affordable drug and repackage it as a super expensive prescription product just for the US market. And really, that brings us to the big takeaway here. The story of this one little eye drop is more than just about eye drops. It's a perfect case study. It really leaves you with a much bigger and kind of unsettling question to think about. If just one loophole like this can cost all of us hundreds of millions of dollars, what else is hiding in the system?